So I'm telling you, Josh, high carbon steel. You want high carbon steel all the time because you don't want to be dismembering your victim and then all of a sudden you 90mm macro. Last time we reviewed a Sony lens, it was on the FE 55mm. If that's the king of the 50s, this 90mm lens from Sony just might be the king of the macros. This lens has 9 aperture blades, maximum constant aperture of f2.8, optical Steadyshot, and a physical AF/MF ring. And it's not focused by wire, it's real focus. It feels so good in the hand. Right off the bat, this lens, it feels like the 50 in that it's, just more robust than a lot of the other E-mount lenses that we've handled. I really love this real focus ring. It kind of looks like a vintage lens. I kind of like the texturized look and feel of it. It's super smooth. And when you focus with it, the breathing looks amazing as well. This lens is a 90mm, which we think is couched perfectly to be a portrait and a macro lens. You can get some faster portrait lenses, but they don't really get that macro focusing distance or magnification. So we think that this is probably one of the best combo lenses you can have. The sharpness is right there next to the 55, which was amazing. The Bokeh is nice, but we've done a few tests. Wide open, it looks a bit clumpy. We're not sure if that's just our model or if it exists throughout all the 90mm. We have noticed that if you stop down to f4, the Bokeh is super circular, super sexy, super creamy. Had to change my pants 3 times when I saw it. We matched this lens up with the Tokina 90mm, also called the Bokeh. We noticed that it was clumpy wide open, and although the Tokina wasn't perfectly circular, we did like that its 8 aperture blade shape was kind of uniform throughout. So it wasn't that perfect circle, but at least it was consistent. It may not be a deal breaker for some people, but it is something to note. It's amazing how sharp Sony is making their lenses right now. Of course, we were using manual focus macro lenses before for our work, but we were noticing that when you capture small objects like rings or dice or anything that needs that one-to-one magnification, even when we had it on a slider, there were some slight shakes that it's just a pain to deal with during shooting, and we didn't want to stabilize all of our macro shots. When you have optical Steadyshot on this thing, it's a world of difference. And aside from video, OSS helps with photo as well. Needless to say, you can even shoot at 1/3 of a second and your shots will still look pretty sharp, even going handheld. Of course, since this is an electronic macro lens, you have the switch to go from full autofocus all the way down to macro autofocus. It's nice if you just want to focus on macro and not let your camera hunt for focus all the time. We did a few autofocus tests for this lens, and although it wasn't as snappy for single shot autofocus as the 55, for continuous autofocus in video, this thing was actually really spot on, hardly hunted, and it didn't do that, phase in and out to get sharp focus. There's really only 2 things I dislike about this lens. One is that the filter thread is 62mm, we like 77mm, not a big deal. And the other is the clumpy Bokeh. We were expecting a little bit more from this, but no lens is perfect, and the Bokeh does look good at f4. We don't really like shooting wide open all the time anyway, so it's not even a big deal. The sharpness of this is perfect from f2.8 even to f22. The autofocus is nice and smooth in video, doesn't hut too much when you're taking photos. The optical Steadyshot helps with pretty much all shooting with macro. The only time you wouldn't need that is if you have a tripod and a static subject. Sony, you did it again. You made the best electronic 50mm lens in the world. You might have just made the best electronic macro lens in the world. The focus kind of clumpy, so we're hoping you'll send us a new model and another check. This is Digital Hype TV with Jay. Next week, I show you how to become a samurai. Josh, you got the wrong sword. This is a gladiator.